Top of the morning, everybody. It is Thirsty Thursday. We are here to quench said thirst on the sweat, presented by DraftKings, alongside Jesse the Burrito Cofield. I'm Emerson Latzia.
The burrito? Where did you get that one?
Well, you said that you had a burrito the other night, and
No,
it
I
may
said
have
I had
caused you to be
Chipotle.
sick.
I said I had Chipotle. I didn't have a burrito. I had a burrito bowl.
Okay, well, we
sad.
like Chipotle here. Potential sponsor,
Really
maybe.
sad. Coming up, we're going to dive into a 4-game NBA slate. What grade we're giving the Carlos Correa deal, and more history for Ovi on the ice. Very exciting. But let's get cooking with Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks hosting the 49ers.
Yeah, this is a pretty big one here. DraftKings contributor Steve Buchanan. NFC West showdown, my dude. 49ers here, man. They are streaking. So 6 straight dubs, right? However, we got this rookie sensation here, the next coming of Tom Brady, and we're talking about Brock Purdy. He's questionable. The Seahawks trying to keep up with the 49ers in the NFC West. So who would you captain for this DFS showdown here, dude? And also what? I think the latest on Purdy's, he's questionable. It could be Josh Johnson, too, so I don't know if that impacts your decision here.
Yeah, I don't think Johnson's going to end up playing. I think they're going to end up running Purdy out there. But I think the good captain for tonight is DK Metcalf. Anybody can come on here. Any Joe Schmo can come on here and be like, oh, you should captain Christian McCaffrey. Like, yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's a great matchup for him. If you want to do that, fine. That's no problem. But that leaves you with an average of 6,500 for the rest of your lineup. So trying to do a little bit more, give you some more flexibility. I love this spot here for DK Metcalf at 15,000. Leads the Seattle Seahawks with all the numbers you want him to lead in. With target share 26%, red zone targets 41%, absolutely dominating in that zone. And really doesn't stray too far away from the left side of the field. So we really know who's going to be lining up with for the majority of the game. That's 49ers cornerback DeMarco Lenore. And in that matchup there, he's allowing a 69% reception rate, over 11 yards per reception. This should be a matchup that Metcalf should absolutely dominate in. He's your captain for tonight.
All right. Former NFL lineman, current DK podcast host Ross Tucker joining us now. Hey, dude, good to see you. Good morning. Who do you think is someone tonight you expect to have a huge impact in this game, either side of the ball?
Yeah, Emerson, my name is not Ross Tucker, actually. My name is Joe Schmo. Because I think Christian McCaffrey is the guy that's going to dominate tonight. Look, everything Steve just said is right. And I know McCaffrey takes a lot of your budget. There's a reason why he takes a lot of your budget. No Deebo Samuel, so all the plays they usually give to Deebo are going to go to McCaffrey instead. Did you look at him on Sunday? That's the best I've seen McCaffrey look in years. On almost 21 miles an hour on the GPS, he was flying. The Seahawks run defense is absolutely garbage. Chuba Hubbard, Dante Foreman, even Speedy Blackshear lit them up. Yeah, I'll be your Joe Schmo. I'll be your White Knight, Steve. Christian McCaffrey.
All right, Joe Schmo. Who's like, all right, we know Christian McCaffrey is going to make an impact, right? Like you just said it, you laid it out, but who's someone who could potentially be like an unsung hero in this game? Somebody who's not the obvious choice.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is not the obvious choice or not, Jesse, but I'm going Kenneth Walker, right? He did not play on Sunday against Carolina for a reason. They realized they needed the running back who's a rookie for the Seahawks to be able to play tonight. They needed him desperately to have a big game. The Seahawks know the importance of this game against the Niners. And so I think he's a little bit under the radar because he's been banged up, because people don't know what to expect from him from a health standpoint. But if they're saying he's good to go tonight, I'm saying he's good to go tonight. Geno Smith has not been great. He's been turning the football over. The Niners' pass rush is vicious. Seattle needs to try to run the ball and try to throw the ball short underneath screen passes. 2 big screen passes to Kenneth Walker tonight.
All right, Steve, like along the same lines, where's the value in this showdown contest?
Yeah, on the 49ers side, Juwan Jennings at 3,600 is going to step into that wide receiver 2 role. Obviously, with Deebo Samuel out of the mix, that means Brendan Ayuk is going to be the wide receiver 1 for this game. God bless you, whoever that was.
Thank you.
In this one here, it's unfortunate because we don't know what type of usage Jennings is going to get, because when Samuel was out during weeks 8 and 9, Jennings was also out, so we don't really know how they're going to use him here. The 49ers run 3 wide receiver sets at one of the lowest rates in the league, so that might not be good news for Raymond McLeod, who is even cheaper in this one here. But Jennings did log 34% of the 49ers snaps last week, but it's really kind of hard to judge there, because that's when, Brady got the hook on national television, because the 49ers were absolutely blowing out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that game there. But this is supposedly going to be a close game here, with the Seahawks only 3.5-point favorites in this one here. So Jennings, 3,600 for the role that he should be in tonight. That's a really enticing price point and a good value play.
By the way, Ross, Walker's salary, DK's salary, the lowest it has been since week 5 there, man.
Exactly.
Also,
Told you.
I know you told us, man. I listen to you, Joe Schmo. Don't you worry. So 49ers here, Ross, 3.5-point road favorites. But Purdy playing for the first time on the road in a hostile environment here. How much do you like San Fran's chances to actually cover here?
So this is rough, because I love getting 3.5 points, and I would never recommend laying 3.5, right? 3.5, what are they telling you? It's a pretty close game. Could kind of go either way. So you get the field goal and the hook with the underdog. I almost always take the 3.5 points. I can't do it.
Whoa.
I just can't do it. I mean, watching these two teams recently, I cannot do it. The Seahawks' run defense is horrendous. Brock has looked pretty good in the game and a half he's played so far. And yes, I'm the first one to make that joke. Thank you very much. Nobody has done that on social media anywhere. Nope, I'm the first one to do it.
It's a joke by Joe Schmo. That's a Joe Schmo joke right there.
That's a Joe Schmo joke right there. No, I think the Niners are going to end up winning by double digits. I could only look to lay it with the Niners, and I despise laying 3.5. Their defense is just so good, and the Seahawks' run defense is so bad, and the Niners are going to run it down their throats. Lay it if you play it.
All right, Bukes, you agree with that? Niners 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games, by the way.
Yeah, no, the Niners have been phenomenal here, but I do like the Seattle side at plus 3.5 here. Like, we know the 49ers are going to want to run the ball in this game. Ross just made a lot of points on why they're going to do that. Purdy is going to come to this game banged up, and we know that Seattle gets decimated on the ground. I mean, they allow the 5th most rushing yards in the league, over 4.5 yards per carry. But that being said, Seattle's offense is whole again now, with Kenneth Walker expected to be back here tonight. That means they're going to be running a lot of play action. They do that almost 9 times per game. Last week, we only saw 2 play action plays last week, so they're really going to kind of be able to mix up that offense there. I told you how much I like the matchup there for DK Metcalf. Like, I'm not taking away anything that the 49ers have done defensively, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment, but I think getting 3.5 here for the Seahawks, I think that's the side to go on here. To be totally honest, I really don't want to take a side here if I really had to play it. I'm much more interested in the total, and that's how you tease what the next question is going to be. We'll throw it back to you guys.
Oh, wow, man.
All right, Steve,
what a pro.
That total is currently sitting at 43.5. So tell us, you set it up perfectly.
Yeah, this is a great game for the under. I love taking the under in this game here. We've been talking about how bad the Seattle run defense is. What do the 49ers do best right now? They run the ball or just give the ball to Christian McCaffrey. And let's not forget how good this 49ers defense has been, especially over the past 4 weeks. They've allowed a total of 34 points in total over those 4 games. So we're talking about an average of 8.5 points per game to the Cardinals, the Saints, who they shut out, by the way, don't forget that, the Dolphins, and the Buccaneers. Kind of like a mixed bag of offenses that they face there. But nonetheless, you're giving up 34 points in total. You're obviously doing something right here. They're going to run that ball there. Both sides, I think, are going to want to run the ball. This just feels a little bit too high here. Give me the under in this one here. If you're making a play on the game itself, this is the one to take.
Yeah, Ross, do you expect like a tighter defensive struggle in a key division game?
Wait, hold on a second. Steve gets the questions ahead of time? That seems totally unfair. How does he know the next question that's coming?
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't. But no, I like the under.
Okay.
Steve kind of stole all my reasons, right? They're both, I think, going to try to run the ball. The Niners defense is awesome. I'd be stunned if the Seahawks were able to score 20 points tonight. I don't think the Niners are going to really be able to score that many either. So definitely love the under. I'm with Joe Schmo Steve on this one.
Yeah, the under is 9-3 in San Fran's last 12 games against winning teams.
That's a great stat there, Justifer.
Wow.
Before you guys take off, what's a Week 15 storyline or bet that you really have your eyes on, that you are locked into right now, Ross?
Well, I know you already know this, Emerson, because you listen to the Even Money betting podcast.
Always.
But there's a lot of teaser legs that I like this week. Green Bay, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, even Arizona and Tennessee. Big fan of the Wong teasers going through the key numbers of 3 and 7. If you missed all those, either rewind or listen to the Even Money podcast. Love the Wong teasers this week. And I like some of the dogs. Jacksonville, Atlanta, the Giants. I like getting 4.5.
America's team. Love it. Steve, I'm also a huge fan of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. At least half of the hosts. I really like you.
Well, good. I was going to say,
Julian's
you only
awesome.
pick 2. He's not here. We don't need to talk about it.
Relax, Ross. Relax, pal, okay?
If you want to talk about something awesome, I got an awesome bet to place this week. Keep the camera on both Ross and I. I want to see his reaction to this, okay? I want to see his face. I love taking the Texans at plus 14 against the Chiefs this week. I think this is I knew it. He wasn't going to like this one. I think the Texans cover in this game against the Chiefs. They're putrid against the spread. 5-7-1. Ugly. That's extremely gross. But as a double-digit underdog against the spread this year, they are 3-1 against the spread. They had no business being in that game against Dallas, a much better defensive team, one of the best pass rushing teams in the league. But somehow, not only were they in that game, they almost stole that game against the Cowboys here. The Chiefs continue to be one of the worst teams in the league against the spread, 4-8-1 overall. This is the third time they're going to be double-digit favorites. They haven't covered in either of those games. They didn't cover against Tennessee. They pushed against the Rams, depending on the number you got there. I don't think they cover here against the Texans, who are on fire all of a sudden against one of the best defensive teams without their top 2 receivers, by the way, as well. No Brandon Cooks, no Nico Collins in that one. And somehow Davis Mills was the guy last week. Much better matchup this week. Give me the Texans at plus 14.
Yeah, Ross, would you like to react to that? Because that terrible record against the spread that Steve mentioned does include, by the Chiefs, 5-1 in their last 6 games.
Here's what I would tell you. The Texans, like, that was their game. Last week was their game. You know, rival Cowboys, in-state, hated rivals. They have Jeff Driscoll and Davis Mills split the snaps. They actually get a bunch of yards because Driscoll runs. Cowboys weren't ready for it. That's all over. Like, the gig is up. The Chiefs will know that that's coming. Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing 3 interceptions again. No. I love getting that many points, Steve. So I'm okay with it. But I took the Texans against the Cowboys. I did not take them against the Chiefs.
If the Texans cover on Sunday, I want Ross to cater our sweat show next Sunday because he's the man with the spread. He gets all the food out there. I want him to cater our next show on Sunday.
So Steve, you're that guy that tries to make a bet live on air?
Yes.
Along with it. What do I get if they don't cover, first of all? Second of all, no, I'm not doing that.
What do you
like? You can't pressure me into, he's on live TV.
No, dude.
No.
This
I do this
counts
for a living, bro. No, the bet's off. No.
No peer pressure.
This absolutely counts.
Who wants to come?
So we are all rooting here now for the Texans to cover against the
He said he's not doing it.
But he's absolutely going to have to do it.
No, he's not. He said no. He said no.
All right.
That was a one-sided bet.
Yeah.
We love buffalo chicken calzones.
Okay, be
We're
quiet.
big in
All
the
right,
subs.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. We love you. You
right.
too,
See you
Steven.
guys.
Coming up, we only have 4 games in the NBA this evening.
That's
so
okay.
We're gonna
That's
deploy a
okay.
little zone coverage, all right? Gary and Thorne, Jeff Pratt, they're gonna join us. We're gonna talk a little DFS, talk a little betting, okay? Can Zion keep putting up the points for the Pelicans? We'll discuss it next. All right, we got a small 4-game slate on the docket tonight in the
Quality.
NBA. I was going to say
Quality.
the association, but then I pivoted and said in the NBA.
That's okay. That's the same thing.
I know. I'm Jesse. He's Emerson.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's bring in DraftKings contributors Jeff Pratt and Garion Thorne. They are here to break it down from a DFS and a sportsbook perspective.
Yes, we love this segment. It's very easy. It's a nice light lift for us. So, again, with 4 games around the association, let's start in Houston, right? Where the Heat are going to take on a Rockets team that all of a sudden has won 3 of its last 4. So, Garion, on the sportsbook side of this thing, that is your job here. What is your best bet for this game, dude?
Yeah, this is a bit scary. As we've talked about many times, I hate betting anything to do with the Heat until about 30 minutes prior to a Heat tip-off. However, I will say I'm feeling pretty strongly about the under in this game. You've got 2 teams that are really terribly slowly paced. Across their last 10 games, both of these teams are bottom 5 in the NBA in pace. And a lot of the reason I'm always uncomfortable betting the Heat is you don't know what their injury report is going to be like. That probably helps the under, honestly. We got some murmurs after their win last night that Bam Adebayo would not be available for this game. Kyle Lowry might not be available for this game. Whoever knows with Jimmy Butler. You're just kind of at the point where Houston can't shoot. Who knows who's going to be available for the Heat. I'll just take the under 219.
All right, fair enough. Jeff, best DFS play in this contest. Who and why, my sweet chinchilla?
Thank you. I love that nickname, Emerson. I'm staying away from Miami in this game. The Heat are just way too inconsistent right now. Looking at the Rockets side, the guy who immediately jumps out is Jalen Green, who is probably underpriced at 6,600. He's been pretty productive lately, scoring 40-plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 contests. So I'm not really sure why his price has dropped 400 from his last game. In the past, the matchup with Miami will be a good explanation for that. They've been really tough defensively for years, but that's just not the case this season, especially for guards. The Heat ranked 28th in fantasy points allowed to opposing backcourts, so this is a great spot for Green to stay hot.
All right, moving on to Memphis for an interesting matchup between the Bucks and Grizzlies. I mean, Milwaukee is the NBA's best defensive team this season.
Right.
Memphis, top 10 team on both ends of the floor. So, Gary, where should bettors be looking in this game?
I'm going to lean with Memphis. They've been a fantastic home team so far this season. They are 10-3-1 ATS playing in Memphis in 2022-23. They have the best net rating in the Western Conference across their last 10 games. They also have an 11.2 net rating at home this season. That's the second best mark in the NBA. They're 5-0-1 ATS their last 6 games overall. I just think Memphis is in a really nice place right now. And also, in a general sense, Memphis cares way more about the regular season than Milwaukee does. We're in like year 5 of this Milwaukee core being together. They don't care about this game. Memphis, they probably really want to win this game. No Drew Holiday. We also know that for Milwaukee tonight. Chris Middleton hasn't looked like himself since coming back. I just think Memphis is in a really, really advantageous position. 2 points doesn't seem like all that much to pay for a team that's this good at home. So I'll take the 2.
All right, Jeff, do you think Giannis or Ja could be the answer to tonight's DFS puzzle here?
I do. Gary and I have been on a few of these smaller slates, and each time we're on, we stress just how important it is to roster players who will give you guaranteed points. And over the 4 games tonight, I think there are 3 guys who potentially fit that bill, and 2 of them are in this matchup. Obviously, I'm talking about Ja and Giannis, and I would seriously lean towards paying all the way up for Giannis. Antetokounmpo has scored 50-plus fantasy points 11 times in his last 12 games. He's really found his rhythm after a somewhat mediocre middle of November. He's absolutely dominated against Memphis over the last 3 years. Also, we're talking 6 straight double-doubles. And over that stretch, he hasn't scored fewer than 26 points. I would expect those streaks to extend tonight. He's definitely worth 12.2K. But if you're not going to pay up for Giannis in this matchup, it should be Ja, one of these 2 guys.
All right, dudes. Pelicans and Jazz are going to face off in Utah. These 2 just faced off like 2 days ago, didn't they? So Zion Williamson has been throwing down just highlight reel jams night after night. Not a real big shocker there. Garion, you got a Zion prop that you're going to target tonight, or you want to go in another direction?
I'm just going to take the Pelicans. I'm kind of doubling down from where I was on Tuesday. And look, I was wrong on Tuesday.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were.
all about the Pelicans. I think they're a better team than the Jazz. They were not that particular night. But you mentioned it, Emerson. This is the second game of those mini 2-game back-to-backs we're seeing a lot throughout the NBA so far this season. It's hard to sweep 2 consecutive regular season games against the same team, particularly when that team might be the best team in the Western Conference, like the Pelicans could possibly be. Across the last 15 games, they have the best net rating in the NBA. They're outscoring opponents by almost 9 points per 100 possessions. And I just think that game on Tuesday was a weird aberration. Just everything that could go wrong for the Pelicans went wrong. I even mentioned on Tuesday, it reeked of a trap game. They had just come off sweeping a 2-game series against the Suns. There was a lot of emotion there. And suddenly they get the Jazz. Who cares? They shoot 4 of 27 from 3. They have 17 turnovers. It's not going to happen again. It just won't. They're going to beat the bricks off of the Jazz tonight because they were embarrassed on Tuesday. The Jazz, they're a middle-of-the-road team, best case scenario, underwhelming worst case scenario. I'll just take the Pelicans here to not get swept in their little 2-game series in Utah.
You know who's not a middle-of-the-road team, Jeff? That's the Pelicans. Top of the standings in the Western Conference right now. Is that the team you're going to target for your DFS play?
It is, but it might not be the name you're expecting.
Oh.
That being said, if you don't want to pay up for Giannis or Ja, I do think Zion Williamson is the third player I was referring to who you could lock in for guaranteed fantasy points here. He's finally healthy. He's finally in shape. He's playing really well and showing what he can do this season. He's also less than 10K, so there's potential for a strong return on investment there. That being said, I'm going to highlight some value here instead with this pick and roll with Larry Nance Jr. The Pelicans and the Jazz, they just matched up on Tuesday. Garion said it didn't go well for New Orleans, and Nance wasn't amazing, but he was still relatively productive with 19 fantasy points. Before that game, though, he had racked up 42-plus points in back-to-back contests, so we know he's capable of outperforming his price tag, which is pretty cheap at $4,700. The Jazz are a tough matchup for big men, but he doesn't deserve to be the 15th most expensive DFS option in this game. I would rather roster Nance over most of the guys in the 5 to 6K range, so I like him tonight.
All right, finally, let's wrap it up with the Suns battling the Clippers. Suns have hit a rough streak, having lost 5 consecutive games.
That's
Not good.
disgusting.
Clippers on the second game of a back-to-back. Kawhi played a season-high 31 minutes. So, how do you manage the inevitable, injury management here, Garion?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's so many question marks for this game. I don't think Kawhi's a question mark. I think we just know he's not going to play. He never plays in the second game of a back-to-back. But you've got Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton questionable for the Suns. I mean, it's just so hard to kind of prognosticate this game with so many variables. I do think I'm leaning towards Suns money line. I mean, it's plus 100 right now. It's very rare you get to bet the Suns at plus money. It's only the 6th time this season they've actually been an underdog. Yes, they've looked not great as of late, but as I mentioned, that last game against the Rockets, they only get 13 minutes out of Ayton. There's no Booker. I don't really think you can use that as tangible evidence that they're bad. Meanwhile, the Clippers have not fared overly well the second night of back-to-back so far this season, probably because Kawhi is never available for them. They're just 2-4. I don't know. Again, with so many question marks, I would probably wait to bet this game and kind of see how the injury report trickles out. I don't think it's going to affect the spread too much, but we know Kawhi's not going to play, and there's a chance that Ayton and Booker play. So maybe put a sprinkle on Suns money line right now, because if those two guys are ruled in, the Suns are going to turn into favorites in this spot.
All right, Jeff, where are we looking for DFS points in this one?
I'm looking at value on both sides here just because, as Garion said, we have no idea what to expect from the studs on both of these teams tonight. And then on Phoenix's side, I'm keeping an eye on DeAndre Ayton's status throughout the day. He hurt his ankle in Tuesday's game against the Rockets, wasn't able to return. He's questionable tonight. I think I lean towards saying he's probably going to sit. And if he is ruled out, I'm looking at both of the Suns' backup centers in Bismack Biyombo and Jock Landale. They're both really cheap, but I lean towards Biyombo as he'd likely slide into the starting center position and will be locked into 20 to 25 minutes. As someone who's sub 4K, that's all you can ask for from him. Now, if Aiden does suit up, I'm probably staying away from the Suns entirely in this matchup and looking at the Clippers. And as it said, Kawhi Leonard hasn't played in a back-to-back all year. He's not going to play tonight. I expect him to sit, which will open up minutes for Marcus Morris, who is pretty cheap at 5,100. And Morris has actually averaged more fantasy points on the second night of a back-to-back than he does in any other situation this year. So I like him.
Well, we like you. And we like you as well, Gary. And we like the fact that you guys just helped us out with all the NBA DFS and sports betting plays. So have a great rest of your Thursday. We're going to take a break, but coming up on the other side, let's check in on the MLB hot stove here. The San Francisco Giants, latest team to shell out hundreds of millions of bajillions of dollars, this time to Carlos Correa. Is this dude going to be worth it? Like, why the hell are these teams handing out such ridiculously long contracts? So we're going to answer some of these questions coming up right after this. My God, dude. Carlos Correa is getting paid. What is this, like the second largest contract in the history of America's pastimes? 13 years, $350 million. He's the newest San Francisco Giant. And the latest domino to fall. And what's been a wild free agent offseason here in Major League Baseball. Like, these teams are shelling out cash in these long-ass contracts that honestly make no sense. Like, he's going to look like Bill Nye the Science Guy at 41 years old for the San Francisco Giants, like the way Bill Nye looks in the celebrity softball game. Just,
Oh, and So let's bring in RotoWire's Eric Halterman, who is going to let us know. Emerson gave his take on this deal, obviously, that he's going to be Bill Nye the Science Guy-esque by the time.
At 41.
Yeah.
At 41. Not now. He's still a good player right now.
So, like, he hit 291, 22 home runs, 64 RBI for a Twins team that finished 6 games under 500.
Yeah.
So, like, is he worth this kind of deal, Eric?
Yeah, you guys aren't alone in finding the big deals this offseason to be maybe too big. Fangraphs does a interesting project every offseason where they crowdsourced estimates for contracts, and they give us the median result of all the Fangraphs readers who join that project. And these top 3 shortstops, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, all of them are getting around $100 million more than the median estimates. But if you look into that a little bit more, the yearly values were actually estimated too high. Fans actually thought these guys were going to get maybe in the low 30s per year. Teams instead are preferring to give out deals in the 25 to 27 million range, but tack on more years. So it seems to be that's just the new norm in the market. And so while all the total numbers are coming off looking very high, the yearly deals are actually not a bad deal at all. And I think if we look at this specific one, I think I would slightly prefer Trey Turner to Carlos Correa for just this next year. And I think Turner actually is making a tiny bit more than Correa on a yearly basis. I think it's about $1 million more or even less. But Correa's 2 years younger and his deal's 2 years longer. And that's why it ends up with the higher total. I think in that context, if you can get 2 more years of Pete Correa than you can get from Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts, and with those guys setting the market in the first full offseason post the lockout, we're in a new economic reality here. I think this is just what the deals for star players look like now. And given that Correa gives you a couple extra years of peak production, I think it makes sense. You could say, does it make sense for the Giants specifically? I really loved the deals by the Phillies and the Padres, but that's because those teams absolutely have to be going all in now. They are very firmly in their window of contention, but you can make a case that those windows aren't very long with key players getting older or leaving in free agency soon. The Giants aren't really there yet. They were exactly a 500 team last year. If you look at their roster now, I think you'd say it's closer to a 500 team than a definite contender, even after the Correa addition. So you might say they're still another Correa-sized addition from being legitimate contenders, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to shell out this kind of money to get kind of close, but not all the way there. I could see that argument, but from a raw total dollars perspective, I think Correa's deal actually makes perfect sense in this new free agent market.
I mean, if you want a star, like if you want a superstar in Major League Baseball, you have to overpay. Like you can't come under like market value for any of these guys. Otherwise, you're never going to land them. So you just talked about what it means more for like San Francisco. What about for Correa? So taking his talents to San Fran, what happens to his fantasy value now, Eric?
Well, it certainly goes down compared to a neutral landing spot, although not necessarily all that far down compared to last year, because Target Field in Minnesota isn't a great place for right-handed hitters. Oracle Park in San Francisco is worse. It's the second toughest park for righties to hit homers in, beating only the Oakland Coliseum, according to StatCast. But not all of those failed homers turns into flyouts. A lot of them turn into singles and doubles. So it's actually a slightly above average park for batting average. So you might see a lower home run total than you're expected to from Correa, and worse overall production, but not way worse. He's also surrounded by a lineup that is fine, but not terrible. So I think could have been worse there, although given the caliber of teams that should be in for a player like Correa, he might have been able to land in a better landing spot. So I think given the potential other spots, definite downgrade, although he's good enough to be not somebody who you should be completely out on by any means. I think he's still more than capable of having a good season, especially because the batting average component at Oracle Park actually isn't that tough.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate
Thanks,
the time. As always, going to turn our attention to the NHL next. Ovechkin on his quest, his goal quest. He's back in action tonight. Is he going to tie Gordie Howe? We'll find out. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Ovechkin is on a quest.
Dude.
He's on a mythical journey.
What? Yeah.
He's chasing Wayne Gretzky's goal record, all right? So he needs one goal to tie Gordie Howe for second all time.
This is after the other night. He scored
a hat trick.
He scored his 18th, 19th, and 20th goals of the season, which got him to 800 goals.
Yep.
Third player in NHL history to hit that historic mark.
Now he's 94 away from Gretzky.
I know. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, I really actually want you to do this.
Okay, let's bring in our panel. NHL.com's Pete Jensen, RotoWire's Paul Bruno, and AJ Schultz. Fellas, morning skate time. All right, we got a 12-game slate this evening. As we were just discussing, Ovechkin back in action tonight after that hat trick on Tuesday night. He's 94 goals away from Gretzky's all-time mark of 894.
Yeah.
Could he be the first to 900 goals,
Yes.
maybe even 1,000 if
Yes.
he plays long enough.
Not 1,000,
He is
no, slow
37,
down.
Pete. He's
Slow
37.
down.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, certainly in the 900s, I think it's feasible. This guy is just built differently than anyone else, maybe that's ever played the game. One of the other all-time greats went deep, mid into his 40s, Jaromir Jagr, but really slowed down. Ovechkin has like the physicality and the shot volume. And, I think he has enough talent around him and the stability in staying in the same franchise to accomplish this feat. And what better indicator of how good he still really is the fact that he's on like a 50 goal pace this year, playing with the likes of Dylan Strome and Connor Sheary. It's not like he's playing with Backstrom and Wilson and Kuznetsov at even strength anymore. The caps have been depleted, and it's a wonder what he's doing right now.
Yeah, AJ, 37, and, he looks like he's just a spry young. 37 in professional sports is like 100 for the earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting up there on the backside. But yeah, to Pete's point, like you look at the math on it. So if he gets another 30 this year, maybe a little bit more, you're looking at 830. Goes for another 50 next year, 880. So to track down 894, he's going to be mid-season. So I think there's literally no doubt he'll get 900, barring any sort of unforeseen drop-off here in production. I don't think 1,000 is in the cards. I think there's just too many seasons between now and then. He could certainly play into his 40s, but at some point we'll see a drop off. And look, I mean, I'll take a half speed Ovechkin. Okay, so the guy can only get 25, 30 goals playing in his 40s. I just think there's not enough time to get to 1,000, but 900 is for sure, I think, almost a lock at this point, barring something unforeseen.
Paul, do you agree? Like 900 is a lock?
Absolutely. You know what? He might have been there already if you factor in that he missed an entire season that when the league was shut down, and injuries have cost him time too. I'll throw some more numbers at you. In going from 700 to 800, that took him 162 games. That's essentially 2 full seasons. Now, you expect a bit of a drop-off because that's a 50-goal pace. Let's call it 40. I say he does it easily in the next 3 years. Gretzky's last 40-goal season, in fact, was achieved when he was only 30 years old. Their current scoring pace, Ovechkin's ahead of Gretzky's all-time pace. To the extent that if he played the same number of games as Wayne Gretzky at the end of his career, 1487, he's at 1305 now. He will reach the 911 goal total instead of just passing Gretzky by 1. He'd be 17 ahead of him. So he's on a better pace. He's much more prolific scorer currently, career to date, and he's doing it at a time when it's harder to score. So I give him full marks for this chase. He's also got the rights to the great chase with the 8 in there.
I saw that. So he's not a businessman. He's a business man. He also got a beer shower after the last game. And when he was asked what he thought about it, he says, "It was great. I love beer."
Who doesn't?
I know. One of us.
One of
One
us.
of us. AJ, we'll go to you here for the next one. Don't you work at a brewery too, AJ? So you gotta love
I do.
hearing
That is true.
Yeah.
I do, in fact, work at a brewery a little bit here on the side.
Yep. So I know you gotta love him saying that. You know,
beer,
maybe you guys could link up, collab on some kind of great chase beer. Anywho, AJ, does he make for a good play tonight in DFS over here, or you like someone else at the wing?
Well, Dallas is a pretty tough matchup.
Yeah.
They're very sound defensively. They've been getting some good goaltending as well. So I won't call it a bad play at his price range, but I think in that similar cost area, I'd rather look at Valeri Nichushkin here at 7,700. You consider the fact the Sabres have been generally leaking goals. Craig Anderson's shutout over the Kings notwithstanding here. No goals in 3 games coming back from injury for Nichushkin, but 7 shots on goal over that stretch. So one is going to come here eventually. I just like the matchup here better, but I certainly wouldn't call Obi a bad play tonight.
Okay, what would you call him, Paul? Bad play, good play?
He's not a bad play. He's not the best one, though. I think there's a couple other guys in the high rent district of tonight's price list that I'd lean on more. David Pasternak's now reunited with Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron, costing $8,700, facing the LA Kings tonight, a club that's leaking goals against. They rank in the bottom 5 in the NHL in that stat, actually, and they've been worse than that in recent starts. And another chase is going on. Steven Stamkos, 3 shy of 500 in his career, cost $7,300 tonight, getting a home date against the lowly Columbus Blue Jackets. They rank second last in the league in goals against, so I think those two guys trump Ovi on this night.
All right, Pete, who's your man on the wing?
I'm fading Ovechkin here just because of what AJ said about the defensive mindset and production of the Dallas Stars. They have the 3rd best penalty kill, so maybe they could neutralize him there. 6th most goals allowed per game for Dallas. So they're playing a real team tonight. They're not playing the Chicago Blackhawks with Peter Mrazek, right? So it's just going to get a little tougher from last game to this game. I will go with William Nylander, Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of people are talking about this monumental streak for Mitch Marner, but the top goal-scoring wing on the Toronto Maple Leafs this season is William Nylander with 17. He's got 43 shots on goal over his past 10 games. High floor player. Rangers have been spotty at home, only 6 wins in 16 games. So give me a little Nylander playing with Austin Matthews and Michael Bunting in the midst of those guys' point streaks.
All right, Paul, let's talk about centers. Most expensive guy on the slate, Connor McDavid. Most expensive guy for a reason, coming off a monster performance, and he's got a tasty matchup against the Blues, who are very bad defensively. So do you want to pay all the way up for him?
You know what? Certainly a compelling situation. But again, I'm going to go a little bit lower down the list for a couple other number 1 centers on their respective teams who have better matchups, I think. Jack Hughes for $7,800 against Philadelphia. Consider he's got 13 points in his last 9 games played and way better than a point per game on the season to date against that poor Philly club. And then Sidney Crosby, I'm going to steal this before AJ chimes in, against Florida, costing only $7,300. The Pens have won 6 straight games. No wonder my buddy's smiling. Sidney Crosby has 22 points over the last 14 games played, and this is a great spot for him to pad those totals.
All right, Pete, you mentioned you like the Toronto guys. You going with Austin Matthews here?
I am not. I'm more inclined to spend up for Tage Thompson, even against Colorado. Colorado's banged up, and Tage Thompson is now up to tied for 2nd in the league in goals behind Connor McDavid. But if you're going to go a little value, keep an eye on whether Jack Eichel plays or not, and maybe scoop up Chandler Stevenson, close to a point per game this season. And I think that the job that he's doing, regardless of lineup placement, whether he's on the top line left wing, moved up to first power play, he's been picking up some power play assists lately, and he's really been closer to a point per game the past 2 seasons than he had ever been in his career. And I think Vegas should be viewed as an elite team. He's playing with Mark Stone, so really good value there for Chandler Stevenson as well.
All right, AJ, which center are you looking at?
Yeah, I actually like Patrice Bergeron at 6,900 tonight. Admittedly stuck in a bit of a rut, which is 1 point in his last 4 contests. But I think a clash with the Kings, who are allowing 3.69 goals per game. That's 4th most in the league. That could be just what the doctor ordered to get Bergeron back on track. It's an easier matchup than most of the centers on the top of the board here. So I like targeting Bergeron in this one.
All right, guys, very quickly here on defensemen. Who is your guy, Pete?
I'm going with Victor Hedman. It's a great buy low spot for him. Sergachev got banged up the other day. Hopefully he plays, but if not, it's all Hedman on the first power play anyway lately. And I think just you look at Hedman, like 1 goal on 50-something shots this year, the floodgates are going to open for this guy, and it's probably going to happen against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are allowing the 2nd most goals per game in the entire league this season.
AJ.
Rasmus Sandin of the Leafs is just 4,500 here. Been red hot of late with 4 assists in his last 2 games, getting minutes with that number 1 power play unit as well. So I think he's got significant upside at a low price tag.
All right, Paul, bring us home.
Look at these guys picking Leaf players. I'm not letting them on the bandwagon. They've been ripping my team early, and I'm not willing to let them on at this late stage. I'm going to go with Charlie McAvoy, $6,500 versus LA, 5 points in his last 6 games played, almost a point per game since he rejoined that team, and they're still number 1 in the league.
All right, good stuff, guys. Still to come, we're looking for some best bets for the Week 15 slate. The Dolphins are 7-point dogs in a pivotal AFC East matchup in Buffalo. We're going to see if our NFL panels think they can pull off the upset. That's coming up next.
live.
Welcome
Am I
back.
hosting?
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jesse Cofield. He's Emerson Lazio. We are bringing in our NFL panel. Julian Edlow, as you can see, is here in the flesh. We also have Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich joining us virtually. They're going to be on the big screen over there.
I'm fine.
So we're doing NFL best bets here. Can you two shut it down?
This guy can't
Shut it
talk.
down.
He's like
Zip
coughing
it.
in my face.
Zip it, both of you. All right,
3,
week
2.
15. What does zip it mean? Week 15. We want some of your early favorite plays, okay? You two, keep it quiet. 3 games on Saturday this week in the NFL to go along with 11 games on Sunday. We're going to start with one of the Saturday games here, okay?
Okay.
Miami and Buffalo, okay? An important AFC East game going down in December. We got Mike McDaniel saying he wishes it was going to be colder in Buffalo.
There's no way.
Which
Tough
is
guy.
crazy.
There's
I don't
no
know
way he
why
said
he's
that.
saying that. This matchup, we're not used to this being a pivotal game, right? None of us. Who would have thought? Who would have seen that one coming? Buffalo favored by 7. Jules, do you think there's like that much disparity between these two teams? I mean, Miami been playing very well. Buffalo been playing not very well.
Tua in games where the kickoff temperature is below 50 degrees, he's 0-3. He's terrible.
Is this the same Mike McDaniel whose Dolphins team was in LA on Sunday night where it was 55 degrees and they were using heaters on the sidelines?
Weak,
55
dude.
degrees, that's t-shirt weather.
Correct.
I think this is a terrible spot for the Dolphins. I don't know about the talent discrepancy. The Dolphins have certainly caught up to the Bills this season. However, we saw this matchup the first time around in Miami. Buffalo basically doubled them up in yards and somehow lost that game on the final possession, couldn't get into the end zone. On the Miami side, they've now been out west for 2 games. They lose at San Francisco. They look like they've been figured out at the Chargers. Tua has one of the worst games of his career. And then after Sunday Night Football, they fly back to Miami, red-eye, get in Monday morning. Now they have to prepare short week to go outdoors into the weather on Saturday night primetime at Buffalo for a team that's had this game circled. Buffalo's been saying, we want Miami again. So I think this is just a dreadful spot for the Dolphins. Anything 7 or better, I like Buffalo. I think they're a good teaser leg. I think they're a good money line parlay piece.
Jeff, do you agree this is just not a good spot for Miami?
Look, as the cold weather expert on this panel and just in general, when someone comes out and says, oh, yeah, I want it to be colder, it's good. We like the cold. No, sorry, pal. I almost feel like we're jumping the shark here on Mike McDaniel a little bit as well. Julian's right. His offense has been figured out a little bit the last couple weeks. Tua not looked good. And when you're betting and you're getting a team like Miami who's got a solid record, and they are a solid team. I mean, part of this is just me joking around, but when you're getting 7 points with them, a key number in the NFL, you kind of have to sit back and ask, why is the sportsbook giving me this 7 points? And I think the reason is they really want some action on Miami because Buffalo is in a spot to potentially just blow the doors off. You got the revenge factor. You've got Tua and the Dolphins coming in a cold weather spot, which I'm sorry, Mike, it's just not a good spot for your offense. This one, I think, could get ugly. And no, I think that this is a line that's, the Bills deserve to be favored here. So I'm looking at this as the Bills potentially to cover here. They've looked really solid. They've got all their main stars on defense back. Tough spot for Miami, as Julian just outlined.
Well, we had to Google it, but jumping the shark is indeed a saying.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I would have laid like minus 1,000 that it was not
that
saying.
was fake.
The Google image search on that too
Yeah,
is also
people-
very interesting.
Jet skiing over sharks.
Pierce, do you agree with these guys and you see the Bills covering here?
Yeah, the Bills are going to cover. And this isn't just some cold weather Miami narrative thing. I grew up a Miami Dolphins fan, so I'm well aware of the Dolphins' struggles in Buffalo during the winter months. As you mentioned, Tua is not just 0-3 in cold weather games. Those are his 3 lowest rated quarterback games. He actually tried to practice in Maryland during the offseason with his brother to try to improve in the cold weather. Good luck with that. And it goes beyond Tua. If you go back the last 20 years and you look at Miami going to Buffalo during the winter months of November, December, and January, Miami is 3-10 ATS, 3-9 for the money line. They struggle every single time. And you go through some of these games, they are absolutely ugly. Last year, they lost by 30 points at Buffalo. 2 years before that, they lost by 25 points at Buffalo. There's some pretty lopsided affairs. Miami has absolutely no chance in the cold in Buffalo. Never have, never will.
Pierce, your old neck of the woods, though, and the Carolina, Sam Darnold and the Panthers still alive in the NFC South here, dude. You think they can cover as 3-point favorites against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that is likely going to be starting Mitch Trubisky here?
It is kind of beneficial for Carolina to be playing a home game in December. If this was in Pittsburgh, they probably would struggle and lose. They've got a chance. They're covering a lot of games, but they've covered 6 of the last 7. All those games, they've been a dog. They were a double-digit dog in 2 of those and won 1 of them outright. They're playing a lot better, but you look at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's 6-1 against the spread this season. The times that Pittsburgh doesn't cover is when they play really good teams. They get whooped. But when they play inferior opponents, which is pretty much Carolina, Pittsburgh has done the job and has covered. You almost just want to throw out the stats when these 2 teams play. I kind of defer to these guys. I can't wait to see how they predict who's going to play better, Carolina or Pittsburgh. Who's going to have more heart? Who's going to have the intangibles? I don't know. I'll lean towards the home team. It's strange, though, because Carolina opened as a 2.5-point dog. They're now a 2.5-point favorite. That's a huge swing. I'll lean towards the home team.
All right, Jeff. I mean, I don't know. Is it Mitch Trubisky or is it Mason Rudolph? Do we know yet?
I don't know. I mean,
does it matter? I guess does it matter here?
I think it matters a little bit, but I mean, you're going to be getting a subpar quarterback either way. I think Mason Rudolph probably gives the Steelers just a better chance to cover here because he's probably going to turn the ball over less. But as far as like this line goes, I've loved Carolina as a dog. They have been so good at covering the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've been cashing in. It's been great. This is tough though. I mean, now you've got them. They have to cover a key number here at 3 points against the Steelers defense. It's still really good. Against the run, they're going to force Sam Darnold potentially to make a few throws. That's scary in and of itself. I don't think you need to go out and necessarily bet this game. I do think that Carolina is still a little bit underrated. Like, they have a very good pass rush. They've been sacking the quarterback a lot. So what I would do, and what I'm looking at this game, if we can get it back under 3, I'll probably take a little piece of Carolina. At 3, though, I'm just staying off. I mean, I don't think you need to go out and bet 2 teams where they're going to be throwing out turnover-prone quarterbacks who could just change and change the face of the game on like one throw. So this one's just a stay-off spot for me unless Carolina dips back under 3.
Jules, Carolina has been frisky felines lately, and they just upset Pierce's Seahawks.
Yeah, I have no idea, and I know we're pretty much out of time, so I'm not even going to answer this game.
Answer it. That's fine.
No, don't know who's going to win. It's Week 15 Steelers. Who are they even playing? Who are we talking about?
Steelers Panthers.
Yeah, not going to answer it. When you're finding plays in Week 15, you either need to find an awful spot like Miami, which we talked about, or a team that the market is off on. So I'm just going to mention that the market is still off on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and where they're priced. So my best bet for the week is laying the 3.5 with the Bengals at Tampa because the market is still off on them.
All right, good stuff. That is a show. That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us on The Sweat.
Yeah,
we will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The slate is coming your way this evening at 5 p.m. Yours truly will be hosting. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.